In just 20 minutes, an entire steel regiment vanished from the map. 71 Russian tanks rolled into the Stepove suburbs, confident that an hour would be enough to crush the Ukrainian defenses. October, Eastern Front, Ukraine. In Zaporizhia, Russian units launched a large-scale counteroffensive aimed at breaching the defenses and opening a path southward. On the map, this offensive was marked by 71 tanks, mostly T-90s and T-72B3s, supported by long-range artillery and mechanized units. It was a massive, well-prepared force, confident that it would take only a few hours to break through Ukraine's fragile defenses. On the other side of the front line, Ukraine had very few forces to confront them head-on. Only a few dozen reconnaissance and suicide drones, 2 M777 artillery battalions, and a group of mobile special forces were deployed to hold the line. Without firepower superiority or thick defenses, all they had was accurate intelligence and the ability to react extremely quickly. On satellite screens, the disparity is clear. On one side, a steel spearhead. On the other, small dots moving silently, preparing for the unexpected. It is the moment when modern warfare reveals its true nature, where the stronger side is not always the survivor. (1400). A thick layer of dust covered the Stepove area. The Russian assault formation, 71 tanks, mainly T-90Ms and T-72B3s, rolled out and split into 3 groups along the east-west axis. Their objective? To break through Ukraine's defensive cluster number 4 within 60 minutes. Scout units lead the way, followed by 2 S-19 Mista S self-propelled artillery ready to provide support. Confidence spreads. Russian troops believe they are attacking a weak area lacking anti-tank firepower. But what they didn't know was that they had been monitored for 12 consecutive hours. Above, Bayraktar TB2 reconnaissance UAVs silently recorded footage. NATO infrared and satellite data had mapped their entire route. The entire Stepove area had been transformed into a giant artillery trap waiting to spring.
Dense armored формирование had just crossed an open field 3 kilometers from Stepove. Ukrainian radar systems in the rear immediately detected dense mechanized movement. An alarm signal was sent directly to the combat center in Orikhiv.
In less than 2 minutes, a Bayraktar TB2 took off, maintaining an altitude of 2,000 meters, becoming a cold eye in the sky. At the battlefield, the M777 howitzers were ready. Their barrels had been pre-aimed, targeting the Stepove field area. The order to load ammunition was shouted. The 155 mm shells were loaded into the barrels, waiting only for the final firing signal. This was not a test shot or a warning. It was a devastating attack. The shells fell straight into the center of the Russian tank formation. In an instant, 6 tanks were hit directly, exploding and bursting into flames. The shockwave was so powerful that it overturned 3 other tanks. The advance of the entire 71-vehicle convoy was abruptly halted. The Russian troops' confidence evaporated instantly. Taken by surprise, the Russian commander ordered the formation to split into 2 prongs. But all efforts were futile. Every movement was monitored and recorded by reconnaissance UAVs. Immediately, Ukraine's FPV suicide UAVs were deployed. These small drones carrying 5-kilogram warheads doved from the sky at speeds exceeding 150 kilometers per hour. They targeted the gaps between the armor modules and the turret roof, the critical weak points. A few minutes later, 10 more tanks were destroyed by these precise and nearly unstoppable attacks. Russia's failure was not only due to firepower. The second destructive factor was blindness. Russia's electronic warfare system attempted to intervene but was completely overwhelmed by Ukraine's Bukovel countermeasure system. Bukovel was not just a simple jamming device. It acted as an invisible wall, choking off the Russian forces' communication frequencies. Internal radio communication channels were severed. Orders no longer reached the individual crews. Amidst the chaos, the crews had to fend for themselves in the sweltering cockpits. This loss of command connection was more devastating than artillery fire. No more formation, no more command. Each tank was now just a lone target in a field of fire. The decision to retreat was now simply a choice between being destroyed by artillery or finished off by drones. 1415. As small, unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, continued their attacks from above, a Ukrainian Mobile Special Forces unit began its operation. They secretly approached from the western forest. Taking advantage of the terrain, the Ukrainian fighters approached their positions and began firing various types of man-portable anti-tank missiles, mainly javelins and NLAWs. These missiles have a very special firing method. They fly high into the air, lock onto the target using heat, and then plunge straight into the roof of the tank. This was the perfect tactic, as the roof of a tank is its weakest point, not protected by thick armor like the front. With this tactic, 15 more Russian tanks were destroyed. Many began to burn fiercely, forcing the crews to abandon their vehicles and flee. During this time, the M777 artillery team in the rear continued to operate effectively. They continuously received new coordinates from the UAV and fired accurate rounds. Battlefield reports showed that 8 out of every 10 shots hit their target. The artillery and special forces coordinated perfectly to accelerate the pace of destruction. At this point, less than 30 Russian tanks remained, desperately trying to escape. However, retreat had become impossible. The field had been completely churned up and distorted by continuous artillery fire. Thick smoke from the burning black tank carcasses curled up, swallowing visibility, causing the crews to completely lose their bearings and have to fend for themselves in the chaotic battlefield, no longer receiving any orders from their commanders. The final task was assigned to the Switchblade 600 suicide UAV. This type of drone, carrying great destructive power, was deployed to hunt down the remaining targets. Each Switchblade, like deadly arrows, plunged straight into the fleeing tanks, causing explosions inside the hulls, ensuring that none of the machines could ever function again. The final deafening explosion rang out, ending all resistance. On the reconnaissance screen, the heat signature, the sign of life from the tank engines, completely disappeared. A heavy silence enveloped the Stepov battlefield. In just 20 minutes, all 71 Russian tanks were wiped out of the battle. It is estimated that more than 400 mechanized soldiers were killed or wounded or forced to abandon their weapons and flee the battlefield. This defeat was not just a material loss. It was a powerful blow to the backbone of Russia's armored forces, requiring years to recover and replace. The Battle of Stepove was not just a military victory. It was a clear declaration of the age of asymmetric warfare. The battlefield has now reshaped the rules of engagement with a cold calculation. A modern T-90M tank worth millions of dollars is neutralized by an FPV drone costing only a few $100s. This is indeed a painful lesson in the economics of war that every major power must face. The question is not who wins, but who can endure this economic drain longer. Technology brings power, but also coldness. Stepove is a stark reminder, no matter how tactics change, the painful nature and cost of war is still borne by human beings. The speed of destruction takes only minutes, but the pain and loss last a lifetime. It is still the pain of a wife who has lost her husband, a mother who has lost her child. Only now, technology has made that pain come faster, but it is more cruel in people's hearts. "71 tanks, 20 minutes, that is a hard lesson for every modern battlefield." The defeat at Stepove confirmed the undeniable truth. Intelligence, technology, and speed, those are the things that truly determine who survives. If you want to understand how Ukraine is changing its tactics day by day, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. War is not just about guns and bullets. It is a fierce race between thinking and time. Join us in following and analyzing the most important lessons and strategies that are reshaping the world today.